The third criticism of the propaganda model really focuses on the internet and social media. And it's around this idea that the internet and social media decentralizes corporate media power. So the networked nature of online culture and the interactive capabilities of social media reduce corporate media power. So people can create their own content, people can respond to corporate media much more easily than they were able to in the past. And people simply have greater access to information and a greater diversity of sources than they did before. Now, that's true up to a point. However, the growth of social media has actually led to a narrowing of media diversity, not only through the way content is selected and directed to our social media feeds, but also the contemporary internet and social media environment is, like television, radio, newspapers, heavily corporatized now. We see a dominance of a small number of companies, small number of organizations really dominating business in relation to social media. And a large amount of revenue generated on the internet is produced by surveillance-based advertising. Now, what I'm referring to here is all the data mining that takes place when you go online and suddenly you begin to see ads on Facebook, ads on when you're surfing the web that are for products, for services that you may have been looking at yesterday or even a couple of hours ago. So when you sign up to a particular social media platform, when you sign up to a mailing list, quite often what you're signing up to is the opportunity for that company to gain access to your online activities, and then that's sold back to you in the form of quite specific and targeted advertising. The fourth criticism of the propaganda model is that it assumes a passive audience. Now, when we talk about media effects, we're going to explore the distinction between the passive audience and the active audience in more detail. But in order for the propaganda model to work effectively, audiences really need to unquestioningly accept corporate media content. So we just accept everything that we see, read, hear, interact with via the media. Now, we know, because we are audience members ourselves, that audiences don't do this. They simply don't do this. We disagree with the content we consume. We have opinions. We talk to other people about what we see, read, hear, look at online, and have discussions, and that then further shapes our attitudes towards that media content. So the way in which we interact with media is far from passive. It's far from passive. So that kind of media zombie stereotype is in many ways an important plank in the propaganda model that really just doesn't exist. It's simply not there. But that doesn't mean, just because we don't respond to the media like zombies, because we're not passive, that doesn't mean that the media can't still play an agenda setting role. So by agenda setting, what I mean is that the media might not tell us what to think, but they play a very important role in influencing what we think about. So, for argument's sake, if we watch Married at First Sight and then listen to the radio on the way into work in the car the next day, we might hear the breakfast show talking about what was on Married at First Sight the night before. We then go to work, log on to our computer, and inevitably we'll look at some social media, we'll get a news feed, and that will include content about Married at First Sight. At lunchtime or at morning tea time, we begin talking about Married at First Sight with our work colleagues. Oh, did you see what happened last night, etc., etc. So the media might not tell us what to think, about Married at First Sight, but they do set an agenda through that kind of very carefully and staged presence. They tell us what to think about. So as a result, some topics and ways of thinking about them are given more prominence than others. So it's not a case of telling us what to think, but it is a case of telling us what to think about.